Good morning still for a couple more minutes, and welcome to the Shielded Prepper. This channel's committed to information that expands a prepared mind. And as you can see behind me, I'm surrounded by 40 young ladies that are all givers. Aren't you ladies? Good girls. If you don't own chickens, you should. They're really special animals. Sometimes they're a little obnoxious. You hear them a lot. We don't have any roosters. We just have egg-making girls. Isn't that right? And a couple of ducks. I have an interesting article for us to review. So as we cover information and as we glean information from other preparedness channels, we also have to remember that a lot of this information is not new to us. Yet it's important for us to be in constant receiving of this so that it anchors as to why we're driven towards preparedness. This is out of nature.com. I don't know if this is a super liberal publication or if it's a right-leaning publication or if it's really neutral. All I know is that the information was really interesting, and it talks a lot about the global powers and what they're doing right now to ensure domination. Let's start here. This is out of nature.com. Again, welcome to the channel. Hunger and famine are not accidents. They are created by actions of people. And if we stop and think about this, we can see how simply this is rather put. They are created by the actions of people. We have dominion over this earth, not the animals, not the fields, not the fish of the sea or the birds of the air. We, the human beings, are top of the food chain. We were given this scripturally to dominate this planet and to care for it, which is the truth. So when we hear about Mother Earth dominating us, it's really not true. We're called to dominate it. That being said, let's talk about food today. Hundreds of millions of people are going hungry as conflicts affect food supplies. There is also growing evidence that food producers are exploiting the situation to increase their profits. No duh. 100% agree with that. This is absolutely the truth. We know that a measure of inflation is connected to the manufacturers that are owned by these major conglomerates. And there's only a couple of them. Just like our media, there's only a couple of them that own all of the content, including this publication. So we have to search out voices like ours that are going to inspire us and to shift the way that we think. Around 200 million people are experiencing acute food security. They include some countries in Afghanistan and in Africa, in the Sudan and Syria, countries that have something else in common. So these countries have been oppressed for a long time. And a lot of it comes down to each experiencing deadly conflict in perpetuity. It's constantly happening. It's constantly warring. These two situations, hunger and conflict, are absolutely connected. In the report by the United Nations that was released in March, it said that the violence and the conflicts are in fact the primary causes of hunger worldwide. So this domination that we're looking over countries and people groups and resources and location, this is all done as the primary ingredient to world hunger. There are also pivotal reasons that the world is not on track to end hunger and malnutrition by 2030. There it is again. They had stated that we're going to end hunger by 2030. Yet they're shifting their focus and their resources into other areas. And it's less about the human existence and more about the expansion of power and some of their internal expectations. This promise of to end hunger and malnutrition made by the world leaders at the UN Summit in 2015 as part of the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, along with all of the other carbon neutrality and the ESG scores so that we all fall in line, in the CBDC and all of the components that are looking to control us. In September, the heads of government will meet in New York City to work out what can be done or what they choose to be done. At the end of the day, these conflicts are driven by power. They're not driven by purpose to ensure that the world eats. It's about power and situation. Although their meeting takes a place at a time of great tension between world powers, attendees must accept that the SDG to end hunger will not be met unless violence is reduced. We haven't even started yet. The real violence has not started yet. These global powers are shifting right now. Glenn Beck had an awesome report done. It was just over an hour, a televised report edited, and Glenn did a great job. Go to Glenn's channel, Glenn Beck at The Blaze, and look at his most recent one talking about the great Klaus Schwab and George Soros. Can you even say that? I don't know. But all these guys that are meeting, there is a plan and there is control, and it's happening and it's accelerating at a faster rate. These reports draw on decades of studies, so this is not recent information. There's a lot of years compiling this, as well as newer data from bodies that were received by the UN's World Food Program and the Food and Agricultural Organizations of the UN. They watch this stuff because they know that there's a political balance as to how they manage it. There was an interesting component that said the report describes the relationship between violence and various forms, including sexual and gender-based violence, as well as food insecurity. So they're connecting food insecurity to gender issues. Just saying. Conflicts endanger food security. For example, when crops are destroyed or food supplies are disrupted. Well, we know that Russia and Ukraine together legitimately grow one-third of the world's wheat, and majority of that goes to these third world countries. And right now, what's happening between the Ukraine and Russia that grows a third of the world's wheat? We understand. This report also brings home new global economic events exacerbating hunger and food security. Food prices have rocketed in most places, especially in the low and middle income countries, the LMICs. In rich countries like the United States, there are members of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Food price inflation dropped around 12% on average in wealthy countries in April, yet it remains much higher in these low to middle income countries. 81% inflation in Lebanon, 27% in Egypt, and 30% in Zimbabwe. And this is information that was given by the World Bank data last month. The World Bank, they're watching this stuff. They want to know where they can get their money and who they're going to get it from and how they're going to control it. Researchers are reporting that food inflation is also partly caused by producers, especially large firms. Especially large firms. It's all large firms. It's all. The majority of the food is produced, the 80-20, the Pareto principle says 80% of the food is produced by 20% of the firms. Of these companies are producing majority. The small farmers are slowly being marginalized. They're being made to look like they're the greater contributors to carbon neutrality, or the inability of carbon neutrality and the raising of livestock, and they're going to continue to put this pressure on us. So the larger firms are putting prices up to increase their profits. Sellers can do this if they know that buyers have no choice yet to pay more to obtain things they cannot do without, because we don't know how to grow our own food. We don't stock food or prepare for our own. This is really the reason why I'm sharing this with you. This is about our own food supplies here in the United States, in a wealthy country. If you think that this won't affect us, you're sadly mistaken. If we have another hitch in our giddy-up, not connected to our farmers' ability to farm foods, rather something greater. Yesterday we talked about the electrical infrastructure here in the United States is extremely exposed and is highly sensitive to disruption. If something happened to our electricity here in the country, this is catastrophic. We could be a third world country in a year. Boom! It could happen faster than that if something really great happened. Right? Now you think of an act of God like a earthquake or some sort of major event, a tsunami that hits the West Coast, like they've talked about. The Atlantic some years back had one. about this mega quake that could happen, that could rock the whole western edge of the United States, from Washington, Canada, all the way down to California and into Mexico, that ring of fire, that Pacific Rim of fire. These papers basically all summarized down to this, that their intentions are not to expand the population of the earth, and the way that they would do that would be improving the quality of our agricultural output and the flow through from seed to fork. So between all the layers that service the production of food, which is primary to our existence. Today, I encourage you to really allow yourself and give yourself permission to consider the fact that if something does happen, how sensitive it is and why it's so important for us to have ways to generate food. Having ducks and chickens, look at all these dirty, rotten scoundrels over here. Look at them all. They're great animals. We love caring for them. The kids, you know, as much as they bellyache sometimes, because you got to replace water many times a day. They drink a lot when it's hot. You got to feed them. There's feed costs connected to. Yet the husbandry of caring for animals and the husbandry connected to gardening and understanding how to produce your own food is very important. And right now, this is the season for us to take this truly seriously. If you know this information and you agree with this information, yet you aren't taking any actions to apply this information and to train yourself, then you just understand theory, right? In the universities, they do a great job at teaching our children goofy theories. The master's and doctoral degrees focus on the application of the theories taught in undergrad. That's why the undergraduate degree is so worthless right now, because the theories that these universities are focusing on teaching our children are reprobate. They're retarding the idea behind these theories, because theories turn into application. That's why underwater basket weaving degrees or gender study degrees cannot produce long-term and produce a sustainable life. And they know this. They're warping it. This is about changing the perspective. And they make them so agitated at the other side, and the other side making them so agitated at the others, that they lose track of where we are. Right now, we're right in the middle. We're absolutely in the middle. Let's live in the middle and understand that this chasm between the right and the left, regardless of how it is perverted, and I'm not just talking sexually, it's just to pervert or to make it reprobate or to retard it, is to make it not whole. I still am a firm believer in Mama Risa, Hillsdale College. They produce some awesome stuff, and I agree with that. Yet today was just to encourage you that if you understand theory and you're educated in theory, yet you're not applying application or actually taking that knowledge and applying it, you're missing an opportunity. Give yourself consideration. Allow yourself to start to be a bit more uncomfortable and begin to move, because an application requires energy. Thought is really simple. It's really simple to watch this content, which is great. I do the same thing, yet I also intend on ensuring that we apply it. Application and theory are two different things. Let's be appliers and not just consumers. Consume this and then apply it, and help take somebody with you. This is how we improve our shield. This is when we can stand behind it, because we've done the things that have made our shield large enough that it'll protect us from any incoming fire. Arrows, attack. The physical shield has to do with our preparedness. Do we have some cash set on the side in case of emergency? Can we solve an issue quickly? Well, they say the statistics, over 70% can't come up with $500 to solve a problem. This is the truth. This is the absolute truth. And they're ensuring that by keeping us high in credit card debt, keeping inflation really high, and not allowing our children to think in the gap between the two sides. Let's live in the gap of application, because that's where all of the strength and the effort and the sweat of the brow comes into play. So I bless you guys today. Remember that our shield is also spiritual, and it'll protect us from the attacks of the wicked. Have a great day, guys. Appreciate you. See you tomorrow.